Welcome back to more Style Esports playoffs action. We are back onto the Rift in just a moment this evening for the semifinals, the winner semifinals of the Targon Cup. We got a couple of great teams hitting the Rift this evening. The number one seed of this Targon division, Team China, after a close fought victory last week, they were able to pick up the win after losing game number one and put themselves into the semifinal match. And their opponents on the Rift this evening is none other than PSE Black. Took a commanding 2-0 victory in the quarterfinal games. And now with these teams on the Rift in this best of three this evening, we're going to see which of these teams is going to advance onwards toward the finals and which team is going to be dropping to the lower bracket to fight for their victory.
Yeah, we're getting close to figuring out who the winner of the Targon Cup is going to be, and these two are definitely two contenders. Despite the seeding advantage from Team China, PSE Black has also been coming in looking strong.
Absolutely. And I mean, these are teams that are very strong. This is kind of our mid-level division as well, but lots of, high-ranked platinum diamond players. Kind of feels a little uncapped, maybe some of these divisions here. So definitely nothing to shake a stick at when it comes to the skill that these players have on the Rift.
Absolutely no sticks shall be shaken today. That's a certainty. And as we're starting to look towards the bans, we're seeing some of these enchanter options getting taken away. And these were some of the picks that have been really prevalent in the previous series that these two teams played. We saw a lot of Lulu, and of course, Milio here, also a very strong support, as well as a pretty large plethora of Kog'Maw. So I'm curious to see whether any of those picks will become a strong contender for today's series.
Yeah, the other pick that I thought was quite interesting was actually the Kog'Maw choice that we saw Awaken One playing in both of their victories from this past week. Lulu, hey, that's that enchanter you're just calling out, Potato. And Team China with the first pick on blue side, we'll have to see what they might be wanting to take away. But yeah, no surprise that some of these premier support champions are where these bans are getting targeted. That's against Lil Uzi Bob and Yihan in the bot lane here. And meanwhile, they're just going to say, we're going to take a Xayah. They don't even have the Xayah Rakan combo because they banned the Rakan themselves. So I wouldn't be surprised to see PSE Black going back to their bot lane early on here. I mean, like I had mentioned, Awaken One, very, very happy to be piloting the Kog'Maw in both of their two victories. Combined 19 kills with only 6 deaths. So definitely a carry for this PSE Black squad. But with the seconds ticking down, we'll see what their pick is going to be, and an early game aggressive Lucian for PSE Black's ADC.
Yeah, definitely a champion that can fight it out in the bot lane, and someone that has just recently gotten some changes, right? So maybe a few more synergies than what we've been seeing before, where it was pretty much always going to be something like a Lucian Nami or a Lucian Milio or something similar.
Yeah, and you know what? I mean, after looking at some of these matches that these teams have played recently, I did want to see an Ivern being pulled out. I think that champion's so strong, but unfortunately, AllOutPotato is actually not able to. Oh, actually, he's playing this tonight. I was thinking that he might have been not on this roster, but instead, AllOutPotato says, "I don't need an Ivern, even though he went 4-0 and 18 in game number one. I'm going to pick that J4 instead," which is known as a pretty good champ into Xayah because Xayah's got no way to get out of that big wall that Jarvan can create with his ultimate.
Yeah, you really got to be very proactive with the Feather Storm if you are going to try and dodge your way out of it. And if you do get trapped, you know that people like Lucian are going to be looking for the follow-up. But this is a champion that we've seen the Team China ADC execute on very well, going 15-2-10 on this pick in a previous series, the one they just played, actually. So definitely has some proficiency and familiarity with this pick. And going to be Thresh, so, the escape we talked about getting out of Cataclysm earlier, that's going to be made just a bit easier.
Yeah, and that's typically why you see this pairing as a Thresh to go against a Jarvan the Fourth, because when you have your Lantern, it's so easy to reposition in these fights. And, PSC Black is trying to lock them down. So now you have to decide, okay, are we going to really try to heavy invest in the crowd control now? And we do want to try to lock down these immobile characters with more crowd control, or do we go more than Enchanter style? And PSC Black is saying, we want that CC. We're going to try to block a little bit of this damage with the Feather Storm and pick up Braum as our third pick. I mean, one of the original pairings with Lucian, right? Like, this is something on release when Braum was first released. If you want to know how long I've been playing this game for, I remember when that champ came out, and Lucian and Ezreal were both some of those original pairings, because the double autos from Lucian can proc that passive so quickly for this stand behind Braum champion.
Yeah, and usually is also just a great pick into melee champions and to engage champions, and will certainly be an effective warden against the likes of Rek'Sai and Thresh here.
Yeah, and it's also like the melee champ, right? Like it does so well when you have people that need to be close range, because Braum can just apply that passive to so many people at the exact same time. And I mean, Braum a champion. I just looked up the release date. Potato, do you have a guess when this champ came onto the Rift?
Oh, I remember Lucian releasing around when I started playing, so I think Braum was about that time. So I'm gonna say roughly 2014.
Yeah, it was May 2014, so like over 9 years ago. We're dating ourselves a little bit, Potato. We're combined. We're not 400 years of experience, but about 20 between us on this game. And hey, look at this. Still some of these pairings coming through, but nothing new quite yet. I mean, Rek'Sai going to be the most recent champion on the Rift, and Rek'Sai being piloted here by Kazumi here in the jungle. Came in last week as well with Team China and played very aggressive picks. Had a Kindred match that they were successful on, as well as ended up winning a game on Nunu. So a pretty wide champion pool from a player that's not really known as a primary jungler. A lot of mid lane picks. Their most played actually is Gwyn, but they have played that in the jungle. So, and kind of been flexing around, lots of flexibility here. But Rek'Sai, I think that was really a pick to try to just match the early aggression. And with none of these solo lanes really being secured quite yet, we see a lot of second half bans going down onto those pools. And that means what's left is going to be another one of these control mages, PSE Black locking the Cassiopeia for their mid laner here in game one.
Yeah, what PSE Black has here is a lot of mobility limitation too. I mean, you have the terrain with Jarvan going on. You have obviously Braum offering all of his CC toolkit, and the Cassio Miasma is just so effective at stopping people in their tracks. And if we look over towards Team China, they don't have that many ways that I can see currently of navigating that mobility. So that might be something that they have to keep an eye out for when the game gets going.
Yeah, that mobility I think is absolutely key. And I mean, trying to mitigate that as much as possible. It's very much kind of a front to back style of team composition. But what I'm really noticing between these compositions is the early game pressure from these junglers here, Potato. Both Rek'Sai and Jarvan IV, known as premier early game ganking junglers. You have so much gap close and ways to influence lanes with knockups on both characters, heavy AD damage, and can snowball very, very quickly if given leads for their lanes. And those are being paired here with very much scaling mid laners, both Cassio and Veigar, not champions that want to be necessarily brawling early game, but want 2 or 3 key items. So I'll be interested to see how these two junglers here in this first game match up in this matchup, because I think they're going to be the ones that have the most dictation on the pacing of this first match.
Yeah, absolutely. And if you look across at the lanes, these are some lanes that have great jungle setup as well. If you're looking bot, we always have the Flash Flay option from Thresh. You have Braum and Lucian able to follow up quickly on any sort of engage that J4 can bring in. Mid lane, you have the Veigar Cage and the Cassio Miasma. So there's a lot of setup and a lot of early action potential that both of these teams are bringing.
And that's what I love to see is this early action, early aggression, Potato, right? We don't want a snooze fest 35-minute game that's 0-0 here, because I mean, you really just need to have so much, agency here, because I mean, they're scaling threats on both sides, but if I'm looking just scaling to scaling at 35 minutes, I think I'm favoring Team China here. Veigar and Xayah, both premier late game characters, coupled with the ornaments that you can get later on at those higher levels, there's going to be a lot of damage getting pumped out from Team China. And really, maybe Braum is the only one to survive a late game Veigar primordial burst, because there's some squishy targets that Veigar might be able to just absolutely explode later on in this match.
Yeah, certainly. And hey, maybe we'll get a highlight moment where a Braum shield will just block a Veigar, but I guess that'll be
I
to
would
be
love
determined.
to see it.
That would be hype. Yeah, I guess looking at the other side, the one potential counter to that is the Cassio pickup, which is a champion that I think can absolutely pump DPS, especially if it starts getting a lead. So that's something that can really grind through the front line of Team China very effectively if they're not careful of how they're conducting their fights.
Yeah, but the way the fight is played out is very different, right? Because Cassiopeia needs to be longer fights here to be able to dish out the damage, especially to some of these bigger frontline threats like Horn and Thresh. So Cassio needs to be able to position around these fights successfully. We mentioned mobility being a key part of it. And you kind of have to be able to extend a fight long enough. Well, Vygar just wants to say, all right, you're inside the baby cage at 100-0. So I do feel like the win condition of PSE Black around team fights is slower, more methodical and calculated, and using some zone control and terrain as well, created from J4 to really help Gnar get some ultimates, and then be able to hold them in place long enough for Cassiopeia to do this primary damage with Lucian supporting them behind.
Yeah, and there's a lot for these carries to navigate too in these longer fights. I mean, we're looking at things like Vygar and Thresh, either of which, if they catch a champion out, probably means death because of the effectiveness of the CC chain. Of course, you have Rek'Sai knockups and potential Ore knockups coming in through as well. So definitely have to keep their eyes peeled when these fights get going.
Yeah, there's going to be lots of things that we're going to be keeping an eye out for as well. But now it is your time to tell us, where do your loyalties lie in this best of three this evening between Team China and PSE Black? The prediction is now currently live to say who's going to take this game number one ultimately of this best of three series of the Targon semifinals here. Is it going to be PSE Black continuing that domination run from this number 9 seed, going undefeated last week? Are they going to keep it up? Or will we see Team China coming in as that first seed, being the team to take an early lead in this series? Get those channel points in, take a quick break, and just on the other side of this spectator delay, we will be getting into game number one between Team China and PSC Black, only on Style Esports. We'll see you in a moment. After that short spectator delay, we are getting on to the rift number one this evening between PSE Black on the red side and Team China on the blue side. This is our semifinal winners side of the bracket here of our Targon Cup. And already we're seeing a little 5 stack coming out from PSE Black.
Yep, and anyone who dares to walk into that 5 stack is going to find their lives very short indeed, as Bromstone is certainly going to be potent, but seems like Team China not going to fall for that trap, just going to start out with a pretty regular 5 point.
And I'm not surprised, right? I mean, you definitely have the advantages, Brom, like you named. And so Team China wants nothing to do with that level one.
Yeah, absolutely not. And looking towards the summoner spells too, I see some neat choices. I'm really a big fan of Mockingbird and Awakened, both taking cleanse here for their choice of summoner. I think that the Vigar Cage and the Thresh Hook have potential to just have such high value this game, and I think that's a very, very important survival tool for both carries to have.
Yeah, especially when you don't have the disengage mechanic like that Yihun's able to build with the lantern, right? Like you just don't have as much mobility here. You don't have a get out of jail free card, and so the cleanse is really going to be able to provide some of that, anti CC here. That I think is pretty badly needed when you're this short range, lower mobility kind of carry here.
Yeah, and the range is certainly going to be potentially an issue for maybe actually both of these teams. I mean, Vigar has some zone control, so that'll help out. But I mean, these are not the long range AD carries that we've been seeing in the meta kind of before the item changes, before these previous patches. Things like your Aphelioses or your Jinx.
Yeah.
These are two ADCs that have to get pretty up close and personal to start making things happen. And Cassio Vigar also not the greatest reach with their abilities either.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. And, I mean, with the shorter range, you do expect a little bit more brawling in closer range vicinities. And I thought that might have started a little bit earlier with this jungle pathing, but both of these junglers, both J4 and Rek'Sai, opting for a full clear from the opposite side of the map here. So, I mean, they're just mirrored camp for camp right now, both at 12 completed. And so neither of them trying to make too much brawl happen early on here in these first 3 minutes.
Yeah, not just yet, but we will have to see when they decide to go for the gank if those will end up paying off. I'm also a little bit surprised to see both of these supports opting to take the exhaust, especially with more of like a catch and gauge style that Thresh has and the all-in potential that you can get off of a Braum Q. I was thinking that maybe we would end up seeing at least one Ignite coming out here.
Yeah, that's what I would have thought too, some kind of way to burn it down. But there's also not too much sustain, really. Cassiopeia has some of that spell vamp as well as Rek'Sai typically build some, healing themselves. But maybe they thought that the heal cut wasn't as valuable and just really opted to try to deny the damage of the other team through an exhaust, perhaps instead. Especially with the actual damage reduction that provides, reducing 35% of damage dealt from a Vigar right before their combo, like that can be the difference between life and death later on.
Yeah, most certainly. So we'll have to see if we end up getting that kind of value in exchange for losing a bit of the laning pressure that these champions can give. But seems like as the game is in this early stage, all the members are okay to just farm it out. But I say that as we get our first gank of the game. Rek'Sai is there, but J4 is there for the counter gank. Mockingbird down to 1 hit and will end up going to the auto attack of Vigar. Venu picks up the first kill of the game.
Wow, a great play onto the mid laner, and it was read from both sides. However, it was Vinu getting the kill and just Mockingbird falling. This is a substitute mid laner coming in for the side of PSE Black and already falling to a little bit of a deficit in the mid lane.
Yeah, and that's the value of the cage already coming out, just stalling out Cassio's escape ability for just a little while. Kasumi with a nice flash to make sure that the CC will stick and to make sure that the kill is secured.
Yeah, I mean, and that's the power of also this early game jungler like Rek'Sai that can just burrow so far, jump up, get that knock up too. It's like it's so easy to get into this this shorter lane here because you have the range available. So AllOutPotato now trying to get something rolling on their top side, but look like they're just needing to take a reset. And Rek'Sai is already reset and is set up for their second gank of the day. Apollo gonna see if they make something happen top lane, but Hashinsha and Uwu happy to just walk away.
Yeah, it's a very nice unstoppable there, and Selena Gomez already getting into that Mega Gnar, looking to aggress forward, might have notified Ascension that something or other was up there, and so the Ornn does disengage successfully.
Yeah, and meanwhile, like we were mentioning, Kazumi does get a little bit more pressure, but it is going to be sniffed out successfully from Awaken One and Lil Lucy Bob in the bot lane. And now a Shinshin, because the extra damage was taken, what an amazing Ornn combo!
Yeah,
Oh,
nasty
incredible!
interrupt on the Gnar jump there with the knockup. The CC chain right as the Ornn hits level 6, like solo bolo from Hashinshin Uwu.
Yeah, and what I was trying to get out there before that fight even happened was Hashinshin Uwu got level 6 first because AllOutPotato was in that lane soaking XP. So Selena Gomez was trying to get the wave out in time, but because that Apollo was sitting in that bush, they got the experience. The level 6 came through first for Hashinshin, and then not needing to flash at all, but getting an amazing CC combo lockdown wombo to get the solo kill top lane. I mean, that's devastating right now for this early game for PSE Black.
Yeah, definitely can afford a nice advantage on the top lane. And when Ornn gets to a certain point, the Gnar's just not going to be able to push or threaten him out of lane whatsoever. So picking up this Ruby Crystal, picking up these Tab Eyes, already working towards that kind of tanky buildup that we know this champion can achieve.
Yep, and I do want to be a little bit critical of this Gnar pick as well, just because this is the R5 that got locked in. And so you saw the whole composition. You said this is what we want for our team. Maybe it's not quite as good in the lane, but to Gnar's credit, they have a CS advantage, right? They're up 15 farm in this lane early on at 7 minutes. And so still is able to find an advantage. But like you said, as these items come in, that advantage is going to dwindle more and more. And both of these top laners could have some massive impact in team fights later on in this one.
Yeah, most certainly. Two big impactful ultimates. Although it is also worth noting the Ornn was picked into the Braum, so there is always the possibility of using the Braum shield to deny that call of the Forge God coming on through. But even despite the kill, both of these top laners pretty equal in
Oh,
gold due to that CS advantage. No plates going down. But we do have a bit of an invade coming out, but looks like not too much is going to get traded between these two teams.
no, level sixes have not come up quite yet for the bot laners or the junglers. And so AllOutPotato, with the better timing and macro there early on, gets them the Infernal Dragon, but is not going to be able to get the counter jungle like you had pointed out. They're just going to reset themselves now. Look like they're resetting to the top side. And now I really want to see what level sixes mean for these junglers. That was going to be level 6 right now for Kazumi. And so now it's going to be up to Big White Shark and Yihan for when they're going to be able to get their level 6, because they're getting very, very close. This is the way they're going to be able to hit it. And then you're going to have to expect some kind of play to come out.
Yeah, and here we go. Already level 6 on the Xayah there. Hook lands true. A nice two-man flame walking right through the glacial path there. Burns out the exhaust, but no kill yet to be found.
No, but that's that aggression once you hit level 6 and you have the advantage. That's what we want to see. But Hashinshin's not going to stop the combo again.
Yeah, it was just like what we saw last time. So cleanly executed. The double knock up once and twice again. The Vigar cage disengaging in the mid lane. Mockingbird actually taking a lot of damage, but a nice two-man stun. There's the Cataclysm straight onto Kasumi, who's going to get taken down into the grave. And the chase is going on to Venu. But seems like Vigar is still fairly healthy for the moment being. Trying to run away low on mana. Mockingbird maybe chasing on the side. A flash forward from Venu, but the cage is not going to land. Neither is a Noxious Blast. So it seems like both mid laners are going to make their way out. But bit of aggression that Venu wanted to find, unfortunately, doesn't quite land there.
Yeah, Vinu wanted the vengeance for the fallen jungler here. It was a turn 2v2 once again in the mid lane, but now here comes the bot lane play.
Yeah, Yihan getting taken very low, eating a full culling to the face. Big White Shark eating that stun as well. A nice big feather pull. Lil Uzi Bob is down to 1 HP, but a flash auto is going to take down Big White Shark, and now Awaken has his free time to take down Yihan right afterwards. Some big aggressive trading from both sides of the bot lane, but it is PSE coming out with the advantage.
Yeah, no longer Awaken 1, Awaken 2 for 1 right here in the bot lane. Picks up the double kill for themselves and gets the shove out. The summoner spells were expended. Yihan still has flash available with Awaken 1 with the cleanse, but the rest of those summoner spells went down through that exchange. However, if you are Awaken 1, you are very happy as you go back to base and are going to be able to pick up the Kraken Slayer now. And this is going to be a big item power spike for this PSE squad.
Yeah, definitely a big spike, and especially with this PTA build, that third auto is going to do so much damage coming from the Lucian. You can kind of see what the idea there was for the bot lane of Team China. They both had their level 6s. They thought Braum was a little isolated, but hold that thought. There's a fight here in the top lane. AllOutPotato getting engaged on by Kasumi. There is the Rek'Sai
Oh, he's
ultimate
going.
available, is going to get expended. The flash does not break the damage, and so
No
Hashu
mega.
picks up another one. I love Selena Gomez going to be kiting back to his own tower, but without a Mega Gnar, it's going to be hard to turn the play. So just going
Look at
to opt
Cassio
to
though.
pick up the wave instead. Yep, we
But
do have
Cassio's
a
coming.
roam coming in from Mockingbird. Kashinshin is going to start backing in the bush, trying to get their way out, but Miasma is available. Going to
Oh,
try and
execute.
execute instead now. There is flash available for this Cassio if she chooses to go for it. Just needs one hit, but
XP.
no, just going to give it to the tower instead, not going to choose to expend that summoner spell. So a successful heist pulled off by the Ornn.
Wow, another successful heist like you had called out there, Potato. They got AllOutPotato here. A really great play, and it cleanse immediately from Awaken. They want to fight once again, but the ultimates aren't quite up yet.
Yeah, there will be some amount of time before the stun is back up, so the aggression is called, going straight onto Yihan. Big White Shark cannot trade back enough damage through the Braum shield, so that's going to be another pickup for the bot lane. And right now, PSE's bot lane is starting to steamroll a little bit out of control from these trades.
Yeah, when I said the ultimates weren't up, they weren't up for the side of Team China. Like Lil Uzi Bob and Awaken One had their cooldowns available, but the box, because it wasn't used at the same time as we saw the Glacial Fissure being used, Braum actually had their ultimate up first, and so they were able to make the play happen on their terms with their item spikes. And this bot lane from PSE Black seems to be the shining star here for this undefeated squad here in the semifinals.
Yeah, making up for some of the deficiencies currently in the early game of their solo laners and proving to be a very effective force in the bot lane, not only getting the kills, but also getting that nice 20 CS advantage as well, with another dragon spawning and the bot lane of Team China resetting. Gotta think maybe that's gonna start the dragon stacking as well.
Yeah, but see now Hashinshin Uwu does seem to be at least posturing down to this side. Nar is going to be matching it from base as well. There's unleashed teleports now at 12 and a half minutes. And so this could be a 5v5 team fight, maybe the first one of the game. We'll see if Kazumi wants to look for the steal.
Yeah, Dragon going down very quickly, though. Kasumi is on the way in, but unfortunately does not get it. Bromstone will mean that they get instantly evaporated, taken off the map there. Unable to grab the lantern. Lil Uzi Bob claims that kill credit.
Yeah, that's that advantage of resourcing into the crowd control, Potato. We said that in the champion select. What kind of support was Lil Uzi Bob going to go for? But that extra CC, I mean, that's all it took. Those concussive blows, you get those couple of auto attacks here from Braum, and you just stack it up, get the damage, lock down that Kazumi. No shot to take that lantern, and the steal was unsuccessful too. So like you said, the drag stack is coming in. PSE Black now just at a 300 gold deficit across the board, but 2 dragons in their pockets. They're pretty comfy now here in this first game.
Yeah, and I love that immediate rotation to mid lane as well after the dragon, knowing they have the numbers advantage, getting that hero crash. I would have potentially even liked to see a bit more of a stay, maybe keeping all 4 members there in that mid lane, because the bot lane of Team China was not around to reinforce. Vigor was out of mana. They didn't have a great way of clearing that wave, and maybe could potentially have gone for a few more plates or even maybe the first tower. But seems like they're going to just choose to catch the bot wave instead, making sure that none of the bot plates fall. We do have Kasumi hanging out in the sidelines, maybe trying to find something, but not quite going to be able to do so.
Yeah, unfortunately, the wave state was not in the best spot to be able to make a play successful there. And, you know, because of these opposite timings, no time for that. Bot lane fights.
Yeah, forcing out the ultimate from Big White Shark. It's going to be 1 auto away from death, but here comes the TP from Hashinshin. Ooh, a double TP actually, as Venu is also going to join the fray. Call of the Forge God is on. There is no Braum shield and a big shutdown going over the Vigor. This is going to be a double. Big White Shark actually picks it up on 1 health. It is Kasumi getting caught out in the sidelines trying to help out. So now it's going to be a 3. There is a big 2-man knockup from AllOutPotato. The Cataclysm will catch out Yihan. And Venu is now trapped in. Selena Gomez almost into Mega, takes down Big White Shark. And it's Venu and AllOutPotato chasing each other as we have Selena Gomez trying to find Hashinshin. Venu still on the sidelines. Flash engage from J4 is going to catch it. Dodges out on Vigor's ability. It's going to be 1 hit. Donates it over to his top laner. There's the shutdown, the big rock toss, an explosive fight, but fairly even actually, all things considered.
Yeah, fairly even, but explosive nonetheless. The biggest thing I noticed there, Potato, was the teleports came in bot lane. We saw Orn teleport right into the fray, but I love Selena Gomez actually teleported to the pink ward in the pixel bush down the river. So they teleported a long ways away, and we saw that was because they needed to stack up Mega Gnar. Gnar is so reliant on timers to take the fights that they want, and was not able to Gnar out properly there to get the big fight. But once they were able to run on down and be there, they were able to turn the fight to make it even. And now Kazumi might be in trouble once again.
Yeah, Kasumi may be taking a little bit more than he can chew there, going to get absolutely blasted by the bot laners of PSE trying to hold the tower, but instead it's just going to end up giving his own life. The minion wave will crash. Maybe they'll miss out on the local gold at least, or, maybe Venu will be in time to clear the wave.
Yeah, it looks like Kasumi bit off more than he could Kachui in that play. Now 4 deaths for this substitute jungler coming in for Team China. I mean, they played with him last week here, and had some aggressive picks like the Kindred, but this Rek'Sai to match the early game aggression is not quite as successful right now. But that's all right because we see these scaling threats now starting to come online. An item and a half for both of the mid laners now, and Vinu starting to stack up this ability power. They have 170 additional AP in their build, and with a completed Roa, that's going to give even more health as this game goes on.
Yeah, Roasurf is going to be a little bit more of a defensive option, though, so it's going to be a longer ways before getting the death cap that Vygars usually want to pick up. But you are glad to see that the kills are going on to the right people. I mean, we have Ornn providing this incredible front line, and Cassio needs a few items for chewing through someone like that, and Lucian not the best of tank killers, and Vygar, of course, just amplifying that catch threat that this champion can provide.
And the threat that this Vygar is looking to catch is definitely going to be Awaken one on the Lucian. That is a short range marksman that Vygar might be able to get a cage onto. So that's my worry now around this next dragon spawning in 30 seconds. How can Awaken position in this 5v5 team fight? If all 10 members are here when the fight starts, how can Awaken one play this? Because you are the carry for your squad. And Vinu, I mean, yeah, as you said, it might not be death cap yet, but still a lot of damage to shred through this squishy marksman. So we'll have to see now with just seconds until this dragon spawns. It is going to be Team China, the first one into the area.
Yep, and we have potentially 2 getting engaged on the mid lane. There comes the flash flay, but the aggression is turned right on back. Yihan is low. Uzi Bob is going to try and block things out, but is instead going to give his own life. The jungler goes down as well. 3-man Cataclysm, Yihan 1 HP, but instead it's going to be AllOutPotato falling. And here comes the Feather Storm. Mockingbird taken down before the ulti can do anything meaningful, and that's going to be 3 going down on the side of PSE. Team China finds their fight.
Yeah, Team China was able to be successful when they pulled the trigger. They wanted the fight. They got the kills. And I said I was worried about Awaken one going down early. Awaken one stayed alive, but at a result did not get down the damage needed to carry PSE Black. That's the challenge. That's the line you got to be walking on. It's a tightrope. It's razor thin margins for Awaken one. They had both summoners up, might have been able to play that fight a little bit more aggressively because they walked out at full health, and there were some blinking health bars from Team China. But ultimately, they made the play happen. They get the dragon as their reward, and now I love Selena Gomez is going to try to trade for a Herald, but there's going to be 3 members of Team China in the area too. This might be another fight.
Yeah, it could be, but we have 4 members of PSE rapidly collapsing. Kasumi is looking to get in there. Selena Gomez hops out, will not be able to join the fight for a while. There's a nice knockup coming through, but a nice 2-man knockup from Hashinsha is going to zone Awaken one away from the fight. Now AllOutPotato is caught in the middle of 4. Selena Gomez and Mini Gnar is not going to be able to transform. The Herald is going to be taken by PSE, but the eye is not picked up.
But ultimately, all members do escape successfully with their lives. Look like I love Selena Gomez wanted to try to trade that, but the team wasn't quite on the same page, and one of them was dead as well. A couple of them were. So I thought maybe if Awaken one was there, they might have been able to take it a little bit quicker, but instead it is going to be a successful Herald take, but not a successful Herald pickup now. So I do expect now with these 2 items completed, maybe we just try to keep farming up a little bit more. Our mid laners have 2 items as well as our ADCs, almost match now gold for gold here in the bot lane in terms of what we're seeing as items purchased. So yeah, now it's going to be about trying to break through some of these towers, establishing vision for yourself, maybe trying to get a pick, and then primarily I expect the next fight to be around this next major objective.
Yeah, I'm gonna really be looking at how these teams execute their map movements. The cleanse is burned from Awakened one, as the majority of the culling is going to miss. Yihong, one auto
There's
away
the
from
pick.
being stunned, and is going to be taken down. Kasumi may be looking for a follow-up engage, but AllOutPotato there is ready to offer their support. Not going to choose to pull the trigger, though, as it is just going to be Yihon falling without compensation.
Yeah, but those are those little picks that can start snowballing into bigger advantages, like taking these towers. Now that Yihan is dead here, there's going to be a wave pushed in mid, and with one less member available on the map, it means that this tower is not going to be able to be solo held here. We'll have to see now if Kasumi is going to be able to try to hold it as well. But Awaken One, Lil Uzi Bob said, "Hey, we don't even need the tower right now. We're just going to actually take this time with the prio to get a little bit more vision instead. Maybe even look to try to ward up the Baron now that it's 20 minutes into this game. So the tower doesn't go down, and ultimately that kill doesn't mean too much at the end of the day."
Yeah, I would have maybe liked to see AllOutPotato hover around that mid lane for a little bit longer. The
Yeah.
Xayah by herself is not going to be able to safely clear that wave. It was a cannon wave crashing, so potentially could have opened that mid lane, but does instead opt to get some more vision into their jungle. Yihan is going to be making the rounds, trying to clear that out, and it seems like Team China might still end up with the Baron control after all is said and done.
Yeah, absolutely. And so I think I'm absolutely agreeing with your assessment there, Potato. You did name that, like, how can these teams move around the map? And I think you're spot on with Apollo Potato helping to secure this, because that mid lane outer tower is so essential in the amount of pressure you can have as a team. And you're just able to open up the map so much more once you get that mid lane tower. And we're seeing the rotations, what happens from PSE Black when they don't have their mid lane tower. They have to be rotating on both sides through their own jungle. It's like so pressed back. And as you said, that has given the opportunity for Team China to keep and maintain control of this dragon just because they have more space to work with.
Yeah, and it does seem like Team China just has more of the map under their control, more room to work with. Even when members go down, it still doesn't feel like they're on the receiving end of too much pressure. But hold that, AllOutPotato going to go down right away, caught by a great CC
Selena
combo.
Gomez.
Casio is not going to find anything. It is Meganar there on the back line, is going to get two people stunned on the wall. Going to go into Zonia's Big White Shark is going to be safe with the Featherstorm. Shuts down the Gnar. Awaken gets knocked up by Kasumi there, and now the chase is properly on. Venu flashes on forward this time around. Will he find the Casio? Looks like it. The jungle pick is going to lead to the team ace, and that's going to lead to the Baron.
Wow, the amount of pressure that Team China was able to execute as a global power on the Rift, was able to successfully take down the entire enemy team, only losing one member for it. That is going to be the Baron claimed up. After the pick on Apollo Potato, the rest of PSE Black still thought that they could take the fight, but they were mistaken. The tariff is going to be this Baron, and trade negotiations between these two squads is heating up.
Yeah, with the Dragon coming up in 9, we already see both teams sprinting towards it. It will be PSE potentially getting there a little bit earlier, but the Baron backs will mean that Team China is not going to be too far behind. This could be another big clash. Crucially, Lucian's cleanse is back up this time around, but Mockingbird does not have their own. Yihan might be getting caught out here, but it's the nice teleport. Lucian is going to burn that cleanse that he just got. Shen Wu now coming on in. A big 3-man knockup. AllOutPotato is going to give his life to catch some people in the Cataclysm, but Mockingbird is just erased by the Vigar ulti, and now that's going to mean that PSE is going to have to back up. We do have Team China taking control of the pit, taking the dragon, and it's been their team fights back to back.
The purple worm stat stick absolutely melted Mockingbird there in that fight. They tried to be the front line there and dish out the damage, but that Baron buff gave them the damage to take the fight themselves. Second dragon now back to back, tying this up 2-2, and that is an Ocean Soul that they are now working towards. Team China with a commanding almost 5,000 gold lead, having only 2 towers to their name. They want to try to be breaking through even more of these standing structures here. Venu's hitting the bot lane, the top lane still standing, inner at half as well. So far, no towers falling, but still 90 seconds with this Baron buff available.
Yeah, and I think what we're also seeing is that PSE is just having a really rough time trying to navigate these team fights. The threats that we mentioned earlier, the Vigar cage, the Thresh hook, the Rek'Sai knockup, the
Yeah.
Ore knockup, these are all coming to fruition in every single one of these fights. And every time it is catching out crucial members, either taking them down before they can make a contribution or making them have to play so far away from the fight that the carries of Team China are just given so much more space, so much more freedom to work with, and it's turning into these big victories for them.
It absolutely is. I mean, and you named before that fight happened that a dragon that like Awakened One had their summoner spells available for that fight, but then immediately got hit by a hook and had to use both, right? And so, like, even if you're not getting the kills or the 100 to zeros off the crowd control, like you said, it's just allowing so much space. But AllOutPotato is going to take the engage once again.
Yeah, want to find a nice flank from Mockingbird this time around. So Vigar's going to find himself in the middle of everyone. A big shutdown goes through, but a bigger feather pool is going to maybe turn the whole fight on its head. We almost got Meganar going up, but the aggression turns right onto the correct member, and Selena Gomez is going to go down. That's another 3 members falling despite what seemed to be a promising early fight.
Don't call it Jaws, but this is one deadly shark, big white shark on the Zaya with the massive feather pull to absolutely evaporate out bars. That's going to be that other team fight win with only 1 member going down. The inhibitor now is under pressure too, and even though they don't have the Baron, Team China don't need no Baron to take an inhibitor.
Yeah, and now with the minion waves crashing, the map control that we've seen Team China hold these past few minutes is only going to be extended
Yes.
even more. Surely that top tower is not going to be standing for much longer. That mid or bot inner is at perilously low HP too, so we are probably going to see in short order the siege being taken straight over to PSE's base.
Yes, and now PSE Black is starting to get their backs up against the wall because you don't have space to work with anymore. We named this Potato. They didn't have the mid lane tower, only 1 tower, which is in the top lane, that belongs to PSE Black. So now you have to say, do we just try to take fights under tower and make them overforce? Because it's clear that you don't have the firepower in these shorter fights that we're seeing Team China able to force to be able to just straight up take the fight to them, right? The wallets are too thick now. The gold lead is pretty massive. And like you said, it's not even a 3rd item for Vigar on that depth cap, but they're working toward it now as a 4th item. And it just feels so hard to get the damage onto the carries you need. Even when the fight looked good with the flanking angles, there's still so much firepower left in the tank for this Team China squad.
Yeah, and it seems like PSE is really having some trouble trying to figure out how to navigate these fights. I mean, they tried a standard front to back, they lost that. They tried getting creative flank angles. It seemed okay. Vigar went down, but they still lost that nonetheless. So we'll have to see if their 3rd attempt is going to be any better here as the minions are being brought on in. The inhibitor is down here, so it's going to be a little hard to see straight onto the Nexus towers if that's what they're opting for. But seems like, yep, they're going to pile 5 people mid. There's the Braum shield coming out already. Here comes the CC train. The culling is going to do absolutely nothing. A big cataclysm, but again, it's just J4 in the middle of everyone going to go down right away because Shinshin lives for so long, almost even survives through all of that. Finally does go down, though. It is going to be just 1 member falling on each side, but seems like Team China not willing to rely on the pressure. There's the flash forward. Doesn't quite get an ultimate range, though, but Awaken certainly would have fallen had Vigar been able to close that distance. And here we go. Another super minion wave being escorted in. These ocean dragons keeping Team China fairly healthy. The wave clear from PSE is here. They've gotten the chance to heal up, to buy up, and seems like Team China going to back off for the moment, peeing the Ocean Drake. There is Meganar still available for a few moments here, but Team China likely to wait that out. And if that's the case, the Dragon fight is going to be really difficult. Here we go. There's the Flash Gnar going on in, but Big White Shark is just getting free hitting time. Cassie was completely zoned out of the fight, cannot join whatsoever. Lil Uzi Bob 1 hit away. Kasumi gets that Flash knockup. That's going to be Awakened falling on down. Mockingbird now trying to kite against 2 members. The exhaust goes on down. The Vigar ultimate is expended. The nice shutdown coming in from Mockingbird, but there's just simply too many members surrounding this one poor bird, and that will be Team China pushing in towards the base, and you've got to think this is likely to be game.
They're going to try to push this in all the way to the Nexus victory in game number 1. Only 1 member left alive. AllOutPotato wants to hold the base.
Yeah, trying to do so, but again, Big White Shark just flashes on out of that cataclysm, pulls in a plethora of feathers, and the Prince of Demacia is only going to be Prince of the Ashes, forced to see his Nexus go down. Team China taking game one.
Team China jumping out to a 1-0 victory after a pretty close early game here. They were able to secure the victory for their squad here in this first game, in this best of three. And it really came down to how they were able to pressure the map. They got the team fights they needed, converted those into major objectives, and then used those objectives to push through the base, use that gold lead to take the fights, force in 5v5, and ultimately got the win for it.
Yeah, absolutely. And on the opposite side, I mean, we saw PSE getting a very strong advantage in the bottom lane early on, but they just could not seem to convert that into team fight wins. And it seemed like there was a little bit of a lack of coordination when it came to these fights. I mean, we had instances where J4 would be jumping and getting multi-man cataclysms, but how do you follow up on that? I mean, Lucian is really short range,
Yeah.
can't really get in effectively. Cassio suffers from the same issue. We didn't ever see, kind of Meganar timed to
Mhm.
sync in with that, which of course is hard to do. But we just saw a team China able to weather the onslaught very effectively, get those CC zone control things down, isolate the Braum, the J4, get these frontliners out of the picture, and then the rest of the team just simply can't fight, and they kind of ran away with the game after that.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. And I think that key piece that you pointed out there, Potato, was the synchronizing between champions like Gnar and J4 when those are your primary engaged targets, right? The Mega Gnar timers just didn't seem to quite line up when that squad wanted to fight. And the teleports timings, not able to get into the fight on time. We saw at the very end there, Gnar had Mega and then tried to force, but the carries weren't in position to do damage. So it just felt like PSE's got to clean up a little bit of this execution, primarily in how these teams want to be playing these team fights and then getting the setups to be successful in these situations where they can actually take a fight where all five members are there and ready to go.
Yeah, absolutely agree. And we'll have to see whether any of these adjustments will be coming through for game two. I personally would like to see maybe a team comp that's going to be a little easier to execute around, a little bit less dependent on very specific timers and range management and things like that.
Yeah, well, we'll have to see in just a minute. We're going to get set and settled for game number two. Team China taking this first game, 0% of points correctly predicted that. But Team China's got to be happy with this 1-0 lead. We'll have to see what happens in game number two in just a moment. After that short interlude, we are getting back into the drafting stage. Number two of this playoff semifinal match, season 15 of our Targon division, this evening between PSE Black and Team China. We have both of these squads gearing up for this best of three here. Team China jumped out to a 1-0 lead based on some great macro decision making, some scaling and objective team fighting. And now we'll have to see how the strategy is going to differ here in game number two. And already PSE Black says we're throwing our entire game one ban strategy out the window, and instead we're banning some of these picks you picked up last game, taking Rek'Sai and Veigar off the table along with Lulu. We got to get that support out of there too.
Yeah, Team China is still choosing to deny this Kog'Maw, actually putting it into the ban phase this time around, because less Enchanter bans means that the Cog is potentially going to make an appearance. So shutting that right on down. Milio is still available though, so we'll have to see whether that passes through the ban phase or not.
It definitely seems like a pick that is still going to want to be picked up by either of these teams if left open. And it is. So maybe PSE Black, we'll see if they have enough priority on it to pick it up first here for their support.
Yeah, and I was also a little bit surprised to see PSE banning out the Lulu, because they ended up executing on it 2 games out of 2 in the previous series, and Team China also played it 2 games out of 3 in the past. But looks like maybe their strategy was just, ban Lulu, pick Milio, so only one of those super S tier enchanters available still on the table, and we'll have to see what Team China's response is.
Yeah, and as Melio has been one of those premier carries, we have been seeing some different answers at least played into it. Notably, Blitzcrank as one of the primary counters for this champion, especially because it has so low mobility. We've also seen things like Sona look to just mitigate the damage and scale even harder. As well as, Team China, they like the Xayah in game one. They might go Xayah Rakan, but here's this Blitzcrank getting hovered, and it is going to be locked in. That's kind of the premier Melio counter pick.
Yeah, certainly can ruin either champion's day there in the bot lane. But notably, if that hook misses, it can be really rough. I mean, Xayah Blitzcrank don't have really great disengage tools, and we know Milio Lucian in particular has been a very, very strong bully lane in the bottom side, just amplifying Lucian's trading power to personally, I think even beyond Lucian Nami levels. So we'll see if PSE ends up going for a repeat of that, but no, going to opt for the Aphelios instead, but better scaling, better range, maybe a bit more carry potential as well in these big team fights.
Yeah, and when we say better range, we mean better range. Green Gun with Melio W is longer base range than even Caitlyn. Like this combo can be incredibly high range with the right gun rotation, as well as providing some of that extra mobility with the movement speed. Right, Aphelios known as a less mobile kind of character here, and these champions do pair up very well together. But like we saw in game number one, PSE Black opted for the short range composition. They looked to team fight. These two champions, Emilio Aphelios, are anything but short range. They want to be staying miles away from these team fights and still dishing out damage.
Yeah, absolutely. And I'm definitely going to be keeping an eye on how the Aphelios is going to be using their gun rotations here. In these big chaotic team fights, there can be a lot of opportunities for this champion to sort of pop off either big Infernum ulti or maybe even just repeated snipes with a green-white combo or similar. I'm also a little surprised to see the Amumu being picked here into the Milio, who can instantly ult their team out. The anti-Amumu champion, yeah. But Team China, let them cook. They cooked up some good stuff game one, so maybe they got a bigger picture for a game two.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, maybe there is. Maybe they like this synergy as well. I mean, you have kind of a pick potential, but you are right that Melio, as long as they're not the one actually getting locked down, I mean, yeah, that ultimate AoE cleanse and Amumu's AoE lockdown, as you said, it's kind of that counter pick. So a lot of these top lane tanks actually getting banned away here in the second phase. Malphite, Scion both landing on the ban table. Cannon now as well. I would kind of expect to see like this Gragas as a flex pick potentially, even between all of these solo lanes. Probably why we've seen PSE Black pick that as their third choice. And now, though, Team China is going to have to blind pick one of their solo lanes, maybe something they want to take into Gragas. But then Gragas can just go jungle as well. So, you have some frontline engage. I'd like to see another kind of carry threat potentially in the mid lane with Veigar being off the table. We'll have to see what this mid laner might be looking for. I do expect to see, though, the new champion come in here on R4.
Yeah, and I was very curious to see which direction this Gragas would end up going. Previously, was taking top pretty often just to be a very safe blind and a pretty much a immovable object up there in that lane. But the recent patch will mean that the sustain has been reduced significantly with a 50% higher cooldown on the passive, meaning that not going to be as safe and blindable into all sorts of top lane picks. And Cassante coming through could be a mid top flex, but we'll have to see whether both roles are capable and comfortable on the champion.
Yeah, but now Yone going to be the choice for PSE Black. I mean, with the exception of the Emilio Filios, we are back to brawling on these other six champions locked in. Very short range, very continued team fight heavy. Maybe Blitzcrank being the exception to that rule here. Kasante, Amumu, Gragas, Yone, like these guys are down to fight for minutes on end around these objectives.
Yeah, one thing I am a little bit worried about is how PSE is going to deal with the Cassante, the mobility and kidnap opportunities that this champion provides, as well as just very significant front line, just like we saw in the previous game, can, just like before, buy their carries a lot of space to hit in the team fight. So even if we do see something like the Mumu ulti instantly get cleansed away, there is still a lot of beefiness available to this team. And Corki, certainly a champion
Wow.
that we haven't seen in a little bit of time, but can offer some very potent poke. Or, maybe we'll even see a AD variant coming on through.
Yeah, I mean, I'm going to be very, very curious to see here with this champion. Not something you've really seen at the highest levels of play recently. Kind of surprised to see it pulled out here, but Vinu, I mean, this is a master laner here right now coming out for the squad of Team China, and they found it on the Vigar. So, don't knock it till you try it, I guess.
Yeah, maybe looking to get a bit of bullying in against some of these melee characters, trusting that they're going to be able to position and work around team fights sufficiently so that they're going to stay safe and just continue dishing out the damage. Whereas PSE really has to have the majority of their team get pretty up close and personal to make anything happen.
Yeah, I mean, you're absolutely right. And we saw some of the challenges of getting up close and personal that PSE Black had in game number one, because we saw these key tools like the Vigar cage absolutely destroy these spaces that they had no opportunity to approach as PSE Black. So, I mean, yeah, short range, I mean, has its limitations, and they might run into a similar challenge in this second game.
Yeah, I mean, fortunately, there are fewer stopping tools compared to last time, but Blitzcrank and Mumu Kazate still definitely offer a lot of CC. I think another thing I'm a little bit worried about looking at PSE Black's team comp is how Lee Sin is going to be navigating these fights, because there's a lot of interruption that could come through for this champion. If you're looking at kick targets, you're really limited to Zaya Corki. Zaya can just ult herself, and Corki can play very far away from engage range, just rocket spamming. So I think it might be a little bit tough potentially for this jungle pick to come see value.
Yeah, no, I mean, I think you're absolutely right, and it is something that kind of needs to get off the ground to get moving too. And I mean, it's hard to kind of say, I mean, as we saw, game one was very much decided early game by those junglers, and it seemed to actually be the jungler of Team China that was able to find, not as much success early game, but made it happen later on. And PSC Black, the Jarvan the fourth, kind of fell off a little bit there in that first match.
Yeah, certainly. So we'll have to see if that jungle matchup ends up being any different. And, as these picks get locked in, it does seem to be confirmed we are going to get Gragas there up in the top lane and a Yone matching against Corki mid. So we'll see some action and how these lane matchups end up going.
Yeah, I mean, we'll have to take a look as the last champions are getting locked in. We're going to get a prediction live for game number two. Who's going to win between Team China and PSE Black? Get your predictions in while we take a short spectator delay. And on the other side of this short delay, we're going to be seeing if PSE Black is going to force us to a game number three, or will we see the 2-0 from the number one seed in the semifinals of the Targon division? Stay where you're at, and we will see you in just a moment. As game number 2 of the semifinals of our Targon division between PSE Black and Team China, exclusively here on Style Esports with myself, Llama, and AllOutPotato. PSE Black holding on for dear life here in this upper bracket, and Team China trying to cement themselves as the first seed and bounce back to a 2-0 week.
Yeah, PSE will have to take this game to continue their winner's run. And seems like they were prepping for an invade, but not one to come through. So a bit of calm here to start out this game before both teams will inevitably collide.
And I feel like this bot lane is going to be decided by Yihan Blitzcrank. Let's see what kind of hooks they may be able to land here, because that's going to be the difference maker in this counter matchup onto the Melio. A quick pause we had, but now looks like we are back here into this match. And I mean, I'm really looking forward to seeing what's going on in the bot lane.
Yeah, it could definitely be pretty explosive or pretty punishing if they start missing. But we did see Yihan with some very nice and decisive flay engages in the previous game. So maybe we'll continue to keep that one ongoing in this game too.
Absolutely, and junglers once again seem to be similar here, but I mean, this time it is going to be Kasumi opting for an early path to try to maybe get on the map a little bit faster here in game number 2.
Yeah, definitely. So we will have to see whether any of these ganks are going to be coming through. Both junglers clearing their way towards the bot side here. One ward dropped onto the Raptors of PSE, so Apollo will get spotted when he eventually makes his way over to that camp.
Yeah, and so now we'll see that, Lee Sin's is a little bit behind in their own clear here, with Kasumi already finishing their 4th camp. So nothing on the map yet, but Yihan maybe fishing for a hook.
Yeah, going for that wave play, but seems like is going to be dodged out, so nothing quite found out there. Mid laners trading pretty heavily
Oh,
against each other, but Venu's got the feet, and now Chase might be on for the Corki.
has the
Valkyrie's
flash.
forward, flash
Oh,
available, but a preemptive flash from Mockingbird not going to be followed up. Going to be satisfied with just burning that summoner spell. The Sonic Wave is going to be going wide there for Apollo, assuming they're on the side, maybe going to look for a bandage toss, but no, it looks like Venu's just going to get that wave on in, expends both
oh,
summoner spells of the enemy. Kasumi still waiting on the sidelines. There's the first bandage toss coming on through. One more available. There's a lot of Raptors in the way, but not enough to block the skill shots as AllOutPotato goes on down. Mockingbird is on the chase onto Venu there, but the Soul Unbound is going to runs out of chasing potential and out of damage. Mid laner is going to survive, and it's a 1-for-0 trade.
wow. And I mean, showing the power of this Amumu, I think a pick that we might have both been skeptical of a little bit here in the pregame, Potato, but had a faster clear, able to get the pressure down into the mid lane and then get a kill into the enemy jungler. So this sad Mummy is not very sad after this early game. And here's the hook here onto Awaken One.
Yep, it is going to be found out. The summoner spells are being expended here as well. The Feather Pool actually does end up rooting, but there is also the Purple Gun root in response as well. Not going to get used. Both ADCs getting very low off the back of that exchange. All minor summoner spells burned as well.
Oh, but
And
Venu though
Venu
wants
here,
to
yep, flashing away, but does get caught by the Q3, and
melee
the W
rage.
of the Yone is enough, just enough to turn that one around, trades back that mid lane kill, and here comes AllOutPotato on the bot side as
Oh,
Katsumi is
Mockingbird
trying to
though.
pick things up on the mid side. AllOutPotato does get the Sonic Wave, follows it up, but doesn't quite have enough damage. One flash on each side, but Big White Shark is going to go down. Awaken on chasing, there's enough
Oh,
damage in the tank for Aphelios, a double kill for Awaken One.
man, second verse, same as the first for the bot lane of PSE Black. Awaken One with another double kill into their pockets early on. And now we'll have to see if on this champion, this Aphelios will be able to find more success and carry this team to a game number 3.
Yeah, and props to AllOutPotato there. Seeing that big bot lane trade going through does make their way on over, takes advantage of the situation, and gets the Aphelios into the game with a nice lead to start things out.
Yeah, it makes a difference. I mean, and I feel like as we're talking about, similar to game number 1, I Love Selena seems to be under tower once again, missing the level 6 timer themselves, going to be forced to teleport in back here. And Hashinshin Uwu having another successful game on this Kasanta, even after a little bit of those nerfs.
Yeah, definitely. And fortunately, is going to be able to catch the vast majority of this wave. Cannon Wave means that the teleport is going to let you pick everything up. Gets the Lost Chapter out, and with the mana available now, Gragas is hopefully going to be much more comfortable in this lane.
Yeah, and hopefully that makes a little bit of difference. The cheaper gold now on Lost Chapter does make quite a bit of difference now when you can pick up that first item, and is a pretty key item for most of these majors.
Yeah, another thing to note though is the jungle pacing for these two champions. For a brief moment there, we had Amumu doubling the
Yeah.
CS of AllOutPotato here. So Lee Sin definitely finding some more difficulty trying to get this clear going, whereas Kasumi just absolutely zooming in through their camps, getting more farm than their mid laner even.
Wow, yeah, very successful early game here from Amumu and showing some of their understanding of this champion and maybe why they were able to pick it so early on in this draft. So now it's starting to look toward these level sixes, right? That's kind of where I expect this next timer to go. Kasumi level 5, Venu's level 6 themselves. Now we'll have to see, even before that, there's going to be 6 players here in the bot lane.
Yep, and the level 6 Milio is not going to be available, although we might not even get a chance to see that bot lane as Hashinshin Ooh just finds another free pickup. Kasumi there is in the middle of the actions. A lot of level 5s coming on through. There's the Koza campfire, keeping the friends nice and cozy. Yihan forced to flash away. Awaken is chasing with the Calibrum. A nice knock up against AllOutPotato. We might see a Sonic Wave coming out now. Just barely misses to the side. So the bot laners of Team China are going to live, but just barely. Kasumi is going to be taken on down, and PSE are sprinting to this dragon.
PSE is still showing that they have an aggressive energy now in this top upper bracket game number 2. They know they are fighting for their upper bracket lives right now, and they want to keep putting the pedal to the proverbial metal. Just like in game 1, securing the first dragon as well. Just like game 1, it's an infernal dragon. And just like game 1, this bot lane of PSE is really the pressure point and win condition for this squad.
Felios here is one of the win conditions for the team as well, and I think arguably a little bit easier to pilot than the Lucian in that previous game. So maybe we'll just have the space to bloom and really show what this player is capable of. But yeah, making the best of a really nice engage there in the bottom lane. Amumu not having access to the ultimate means that the skirmishing power from Lee Sin is going to be superior, and Felios with all these gun rotations was just simply able to pump out more damage.
Yeah, and now we have Awaken One biggest fan in the chat as well. You're bringing all of the bandwagon over for this PSE Black squad here. The love is coming out for this player, and as you said, this Aphelios with that gun rotation, with the amount of damage they have, seems to be at a very accelerated early game again. 600 individual gold advantage. Their team is at a deficit here, so if we can stop the bleeding and stack a couple of dragons on PSE Black side, they still might be able to be set up here for this Silver Scrapes game 3. But in the meantime, this pressure is starting to move a little bit toward the top side because I love Selena Gomez has been in a little bit of trouble and doesn't have a flash available.
Yeah, it has been the solo laners in both of these games finding themselves at more of a disadvantage, and now Gragas' wave in a very awkward spot as Kasumi is going to be hovering to make sure that Hachinshin is able to secure this advantage as they see fit. The top lane still reasonably stable, but I say that as there seems to be just another all-in coming in from Hachinshin with there's the all-out being invested and the unstoppable. There's a nice Q3 lands true, and there is going to be no escape for the Gragas as Hashinshin here flexing a little bit with their mechanics really clean on the Ornn, as it turns out really clean on this Cassante as well.
Because we've really just been putting lots of pressure here into the backs of PSE Black. Team China really seems to be doing a great job through their solo lanes, like you had mentioned, and some great scaling options from both of these characters too. But now Kazumi is level 6, might be looking for a little Lucy Bob.
Yeah, going to try and find it, just barely misses with the Curse of the Sad Mummy. Finally, the second Banish Toss finds it, but is now out of CC. Awakened One here is ready to hit on the backside. There was no pull, no Amumu CC available, but with 3 members, it looks like Awakened One is just going to take the safe option, disengage for now. Kasumi is coming around, maybe for a round 2. There goes the Banish Toss, gets flashed away from Yihan, wants it with the Rocket Punch. Will they get it? No, looks like both sides are going to just walk away for the moment being. Now the mid laners are going to be be tussling at it, but seems like not too much damage in the tank for Mockingbird just yet.
Yeah, no kills down in the bot lane, but still some flashes expended. Awakened One using both the flash and the ghost in that most recent exchange. But now we have the ultimate back available for Melio, so they might be able to be keeping their squad just a little bit safer now with Breath of Life, still breathing some life into this bot lane.
Yeah, this mid lane is definitely taking some punishment, though. We have a 25 CS lead coming out here, which is 4 full minion waves. Wants to find the engage onto Venu, but a nice and easy Valkyrie is going to keep this Corki safe. It is going to be Herald dropped in the spot lane, using their advantage. That's going to crash it down to just one plate. Might even see the full tower going down, and if it does happen to do so, we might end up getting a rotation to alleviate some of the solo lane pressure, but no, it seems like that plate will hold true for the moment. The bot lane of Team China is there to pick up the wave, and we're just going to end up getting a reset.
Now there's a minute until the next dragon, and there is a disadvantage still for the side of PSE Black in the gold department at least. But we're seeing a similar mythic item completed for both of these carries, even though there's 3 kills in Awakened One's pocket and none in Big White Sharks. But we know that the team fighting prowess that this squad has is still incredibly strong. And if Team China can bring up their members from the top side all the way down to this dragon, I would still favor Team China at this point around these team fights.
Yeah, absolutely. And the power in terms of what is available to both of these ADCs right now is actually completely even item wise. We do have many members being rotated down here for the dragon. There is TP available for both top laners as well as for Venu. It's going to be finishing up that Trinity Force in base. So not going to be that AP poke style. Rather, we're going to be seeing a more of a DPS style Corki coming out.
Yeah, I mean, the Triforce changes have opted to be pretty useful for a lot of these sort of champions here. And Triforce being that key member. But the other item I'm keeping my eyes on is now the Demonic Embrace completed for Kasumi. They might be the one looking to fight this and take the engage.
Yeah, there's going to be Curse of the Sad Mummy used immediately, and that's going to be 2 members caught out, split away by that package, and now it's going to be people starting to fall on down. Finally, the teleport comes through. Mockingbird chases on, does end up getting the finishing kill. Awakened One, though, finds his way in between all the solo laners. Comet is going to claim the life of Big White Shark, and now Selena Gomez is going to try and disengage here. All out, still available. Uzi Bomb trying to offer some support there on the backside. Venu is in one-shot potential, just barely misses out on the body slam, and now Selena Gomez is once again going to start running through enemy territory, trying to find their escape. Resets coming through. Yep, does have flash here. The barrel is going to land, offer some disengage potential. Who wants it? There's the Q1, doesn't quite find it, and seems like it's going to be safe for the moment. Yep, no Q3 to come out, no CC, and no kill to be found. A fairly even trade for both sides.
Yeah, but ultimately an extra kill to the side of PSE that they really desperately needed there. And ultimately Mockingbird got 2 of them there, Potato. So that's, you know, if you're PSE Black, we talked about last game, the kills get onto the right targets. And Mockingbird now going into this mid game with a couple of extra kills is going to really set them up for success. It looked so bad at first for PSE Black, but ultimately they were able to pull it together. They had the extended damage when it was needed, and they ultimately end up winning the team fight in the kills department. But the Dragon, this objective is still standing, and they're going to be right back to it.
Yeah, Mockingbird desperately needed that gold. With all things said, still 1,500 gold behind, but there is the pick, the Blitzcrank value coming on through. There was a ward spawning out. AllOutPotato gets yoinked right on over, taken down with the CC chain available to Team China, and this is going to be a cloud going on over, tying up the Dragons 1-1.
Yeah, Moonlight Vigil was still 20 seconds until it came off of cooldown, so Awakened One not able to fight it. There is going to be the ultimate from Lil Uzi Bob available. They might try to take a 2v2, and now here comes Mockingbird.
Yeah, Ghost expended for Awakened, and there is no curse available just yet. Kasumi is absolutely getting evaporated between the red and white guns. Yeehaw might have to start running away as well. Venu there on the side, trying to make sure that the top side of the map is still going to get secured at least, and that's just going to be a free pickup onto the jungler.
Yep, so you do tie up the Dragons at least 1-1, but the kill is going to be traded 1-0 to PSE. And so 1-0, that's all right. You know, giving over a Cloud Dragon, not going to be too big of an issue. Sure, you get some out of combat movement speed and slow resistance, but ultimately not anything too insane. Mockingbird now is going to transition into this bot lane as we see these bot laners transitioning into mid, trying to crack this tower. But Yihan might be looking for a fight.
Yeah, Yihan wants it. There's the flash rocket punch to make sure there is no escape there. Awakened One unable to run away from the engaged potential of Yihan there. Very well played.
Yep, that's a great play there where they just said, we can go and let's make it happen. Yihan using Ignite and Flash in order to make it happen, but they did. Now AllOutPotato wants to make their own play happen in the top lane.
Yep, there's no minion wave. The Gragas Sparrow is a nice knockup for the moment. Unstoppable does not come on through. The Sonic Wave misses, and so Hashimshin Uwu goes through, doesn't quite get the kidnap over the wall, but might just have the resources to escape here. Curse of the Sad Mummy is available. There's the 2-man, but just has enough damage for the moment. And this is a fairly squishy Mummy coming on through. Not quite in tower range there on the stun, so it's a double kill coming over for Selena Gomez. It is members collapsing from both sides, so AllOutPotato trying to run into enemy territory, but is just going to feed a kill over to Big White Shark. Selena Gomez potentially untouched after that, so might be able to get this execute off. We'll have to see. One more shot. Yep, does get the execute and will leave a lot of free time on this mid tower as well. But here comes the Shurelias once again. The slow ult is going to be expended from Awakened One, keeps themselves alive. So a nice 2-for-1 trade after it all.
Ultimately still an advantage if we're talking about PSE on the back end of this. Yes, you get executed as the top laner, but you still get 2 kills for your problems. And Big White Shark with the teleport is going to try to get the tower, but here comes the teleport as response.
Yep, Featherstorm is available for the moment being. Can they get the angle? No, Mockingbird dodged that out. So finds another pickup, a shutdown, even 600 gold. That's a nice addition to their pocket. And maybe we'll finally get their way towards that mythic, going towards the Gale Force here. Rift Arrows is going to be started up. Shinsha Uwu on the bot side, TP available, but it looks like the members of Team China are not going to go for it, as this second Herald is going to fall to PSE.
Yeah, this has been a pretty explosive early game here, Potato. Less than 18 minutes and 19 kills across the Rift so far. Feels like there's always at least one player in the black and white screen, and most recently it was Big White Shark. Like you had mentioned, does result in this Rift Herald play. And now this was where we saw PSE falter just a little bit here so far in some of these previous matches, right? Because how can they use macro to start breaking open towers? They still only have 1 tower to their name, this time in the bot, and there are 3 towers responded to with all of the outer towers getting broken. But you have the resources, you have the tower, the Herald now. So what are they going to do?
Yeah, would like to see this map open up a little bit, but it's hard because the side laners are just not going to be able to find the wins. I mean, sure, Mockingbird can take down Big White Shark, but Cassante is completely unmovable, and Corki is an absolute menace here, finishing out 2 items and boots on this champion. Is just completely out of control gold-wise, and you can already see just pushing this Gragas away, making sure that all of these minion waves are not going to come anywhere close to crashing into their towers.
Yeah, and I think you called it out really well there. It's like, yes, you need to be able to use some macro here, but you don't with the side lanes, right? And like, yes, you have 2 teleports on both sides here for both teams, but just because you have a teleport doesn't mean you can match the pressure. And as you said, Hashinshin Uwu here with 2 items now completed is going to be a menace in a side lane. Mockingbird's best that they can do is just try to clear the waves and push them on back. So now as a team, maybe you try to look up as a 5v5, but as I look at these players here, unless, AllOutPotato can get a great play onto Zaya with a kick or something, it might be kind of hard to take these 5v5 team fights. And this Dragon in just 10 seconds, this might be the place to see if PSE Black is going to be strong enough to take the fight, because there's some key item breakpoints completed now.
Yeah, I mean, it's 2 items for the mid-top and ADC of Team China, and we don't have the same that can be said for PSE Black. Ghost Burn for fellows. Emilio being picked right on the fight is going to spell trouble. Shisha Uwu finds a nice engage to kidnapping the carry. There's a big kick, but that's not going to mean anything when the rest of the team just simply ceases to exist. Team China pulling the button and getting the team fight win.
Another hook that spelled the end of that team fight. Lil Uzi Bob got pulled on in for their demise, and the rest of the members fell like dominoes at the Dragon fight. Selena Gomez tries to fight their way out of here now. Has the cask available.
Yeah, maybe would have liked to see a body slam there onto Venue, but instead gets away with their life, which is still good enough there. And yeah, Cassante, despite the big blitzcrank hook, Cassante there also had a huge role in that team fight, decisively going straight into the enemy team, getting a 2 or 3 man pushback onto the main clump of PSE, including Awakened One. And when that happened, there was simply no escape. The carries melted off, and so did their chances at a team fight win.
Yeah, and that does make such a difference now with two dragons in their pocket and the gold lead expanding once again. The advantages that PSC Black found in the mid game are starting to follow by the wayside now. It's hard to match the split. We just saw that they can't take the team fights now. So now you have to start getting creative, I think, if you're PSE Black, and what can you be doing with this Rift Herald? What can you be doing around the map to try to get some kind of victory and maybe try to cement a game 3?
Yeah, the Rift Herald being dropped already pre-Dragon, so that tool even not going to be available. It did get the mid lane outer tower at least, so the map is a little bit more opened up, but the map state is hard, right? I mean, you have your side lanes losing to the opponent side lanes. It's hard to control vision where Blitzcrank hooks can just be coming out of any nook and corner. So
Well, this
how
might
do
be
you
one of them.
find a yeah? So how do you find your way? And here we go. Apollo
Oh,
Potato does definitely dodge out of the way of that one. Maybe that'll buy the rest of PSE some space to clear out their own jungle here, as we do have Team China assembly around the Baron, maybe looking to threaten or force around this objective. We'll have to see if they
oh
end up
my.
securing it. Awakened One is very far away, and there's a lot of DPS. Maybe it has to be a steal
50.
from Apollo Potato. The Sonic
Well,
Wave did
50.
land, and here we go. It is the smite secure from Kasumi, and the TP is coming on, and Big White Shark chasing on through. Awakened One in the middle of 5 people is just going to get instantly taken away. Mockingbird does get the Gale Force finish. Ooh, knocked away for a moment being, while Selena Gomez and Uzi Bob running for their lives. But it is going to be a flash forward from Minu, immediately forcing the flash from the Gragas in response. Baron is secured. 3 members are taken down. Venu feeling very frisky, going into melee range of this Gragas, but seems like they don't care. Milio investing everything to try and keep their top laner alive. Ehan there on the backside, absolutely going to bring the beat down to his opposing support member. And after it all, it's an ace for Team China. It's Baron secured. It's mid lane push going on down. It seems like it's a potential path to a 2-0.
Yeah, Team China's trying to cement themselves in the winners' finals with this performance. Another objective secure, translated into a team fight victory. We saw Awaken One starting off 3-0, and since then has not been able to find the key Moonlight Vigils to take the kills and get the team fights for their squad. And it's harder you're getting out team fought here because even with Mockingbird coming in, they put so many resources with that teleport to be able to kill Big White Shark, but like we saw, same as game number 1, there's just too many threats, and Team China really wants to close out this series.
Yeah, and Shark almost even survived there as well because Kashinshin had a kind of nuts Cassante ultimate in response to Mockingbird zooming on and got the pushback, but there was enough gap close there on the Yone to at least find the finish. So you do take 1 back in response at least. But now, if we take a look around, it's 3 items for each of the solo laners of Team China. It's Baron on the map. It's the Siege starting to go. So what kind of pressure can they bring? Can they close out these towers? The lanes are being pushed a little bit out of sync. I mean, we do have Kasumi basing and so on, so not the greatest amount of pressure being exerted at the moment, but maybe just looking for this soul point
Mhm.
secure instead. Venu, yup, is going to look for an assassination onto Mockingbird. Does not quite dodge out of the Yone ulti, but
Ooh.
uh yeah, you don't need
Yeah.
to when you just right click the enemy to death, as it turns out.
Yeah, so I thought they might have been looking for the dragon, but instead they're looking across the map. Now Potatoes not at all for the dragon, but they want the kill instead.
Yep, does find the kick into the combo there, gets the shutdown onto the Corki. Awakened One maybe going to look for a pull off of that Green Gum proc. Doesn't seem to commit to it though, so Great White Shark is going to get out safely, heal on up with those enhanced plants, and now members are being pulled towards the spot side, trying to defend this bot lane outer. Hex Flash potentially
Baron's
coming through,
gone.
not going to get committed. Yep, and instead it's going to be Kasumi solo starting up the dragon while the rest of the team mulls over whether the siege should go on or not.
Yeah, at least with this Baron now expiring, it does mean that the siege becomes just a little bit harder. But Potato does not have a flash available now, but still is going to be pulled into the pit by the Cassante.
Yeah, pulled
No
into the
chance
pit
for
and
us.
immediately taken down. The engage goes on to Yihan, but there's the flash curse of
Oh
the
my
sad mummy. But I think the only members being sad here are the members of PSG. Mockingbird is going to get caught by the third hit of Cassante. That's a clean ace, a decisive team fight. Yihan drawing all the attention from the enemy team, allowing their jungler to swoop on in and confirm the team kills.
5-0, the Dragon, the Baron, the team fight, and now the inhibitor and the series. Team China has put up an amazing performance in these two matches tonight. And with the inhibitor falling, they're deciding if they're going to try to take the win right here. And they are going to start hitting these Nexus towers.
That's 3 members turning on here, but 1 Blitzcrank grab could spell death. 4 members trying to defend it. AllOutPotato goes on in, but the kick is not going to do too much. Yihan goes down right away. Great White Shark under some pressure, but Selena Gomez is going to fall instead. The CC lands right onto Awakened One. He's going to go down. Louisy Ball forced to flash away. 1 Corky Rocket takes away about 2/3 of his HP. Mockingbird does trade 1 back in response, but Hashinshin is still there. Venu is still there, pushing on towards the Nexus. It's Mockingbird versus the world here, and the world is going to win as the Nexus is going to fall on down, and it's a 2-0 victory for Team China.
Team China 2, PSE Black 0. Like you had named, some great performances out from Team China here in this match, securing them the flawless victory after a shaky last week. Dropping the game, they came back cleanly and cemented themselves as to why they should be the #1 seed from this Targon group.
Yeah, absolutely well deserved. Very well played throughout all of the team fights. The solo laners, a little bit out of control in both of these games, and just executing really well on their win conditions. They had a great vision on how to play the game, and they played exactly to those conditions.
Yeah, they absolutely did. I mean, and we saw a very similar style from both these games from Team China. You know, they were able to play the team fight victories just even more cleanly. They had Big White Shark, who might have got behind early, play the team fights well enough to secure as being one of those primary damage threats. And when you got these frontline champions like Cassante and Amumu, it was all over. But but the Nexus, and ultimately now that is one step closer for this squad to move on toward the finals now. And PSE Black is going to be falling to play against Coco Melon Gaming next week.
Yeah, still alive in their playoffs run, but Team China definitely showing us why they were the first seed in tonight's matchup. So going to be moving on straight towards the winners final. So maybe we'll end up seeing one of these teams coming on back as the rest of the playoffs bracket continues to resolve.
Yeah, while we are waiting for that bracket to resolve, we are going to be done with this evening's cast. This was, again, the semifinals of our Targon division in the Style Esports playoff matchups. Again, bringing the action was myself, Llama, alongside AllOutPotato. And as Team China moves on and PSE Black falls to losers bracket, there is much more action coming at you this week. On Sunday, we'll be having even more matches coming through potentially. And so keep an eye out for even more CCS or Style Esports action here in the future. But that is going to do it for us this evening. Have a great night.